This guide took me 200 years to make. What's up, GameLeap? Coach Eag's back with another daily upload, and in today's video you are going to learn everything you need to know about Aphelios. Abilities, weapon order and management, skills, tips, tricks, builds, runes. There is so much information in here that it will 100% be the only Aphelios guide you will ever need. Now we can't start without you liking the video, so do that, and just before we send it, if you haven't already, give the GameLeap website a gander. We have the best challenger players and coaches uploading daily videos for your League of Legends learning, so to get that exclusive access, get signed up. Links in the description and comment section. Alright, let's get into it and start by quickly talking about your passive and weapons. So your passive, the Hitman and the Seer, isn't like a normal passive because it's not an actual ability. So instead, you get to choose between leveling up 3 stats: attack damage, attack speed, and lethality. Now at the moment, because Aphelios' lethality got buffed, after maxing your attack damage first, which is the first arrow, lethality is next, the third arrow, then followed by attack speed. Now you can consider maxing attack speed second if the enemy team is full of bruisers and tanks who are likely to build armor because lethality won't do much. Now this is where it gets edgy, your weapons. So as Aphelios, you have 5 guns, each with 50 ammunition. Auto attacks are 1 ammo and a Q is 10 ammo. Now these 5 guns are always in the same order at the start of a game, and this is really the key to playing Aphelios, so pay attention. So you start with your Calibrum, and this is your green gun, and make sure you memorize the guns by name or color, your choice. For this video, I will be using their names, and along with Calibrum, you will have Severum, your red gun, as your offhand gun. Now to cycle between these 2 guns, you have to just press W, and this is actually a nice trick to do during the laning phase to exert pressure. Now after Severum, you have Gravitum, your purple gun, then you have Infernum, your blue gun, and last but not least, Crescendum, your white gun. Now each of these guns are unique, and it's essential we understand what purpose each of them serve and the synergy they can have with one another. So your Calibrum is all about range. It gives you more attack range, and the Q, Moonshot, is a long-range skill shot that deals damage to the first target hit, and you can auto-attack that moonshotted target from far away. You should also remember that any ability you use that triggers Calibrum will give you the same mark. This will be important for later. Now in the early game, this is your basic combo. You moonshot and then you auto-attack that target. Easy, right? But if you want to take it a step further, after marking one target, you can auto-attack the other and then auto-attack the moonshotted target instantly. Now your Calibrum Q also reveals targets. So if you're against a Kai'Sa, a Shaco, a Rengar, a Kha'Zix, and a Gali, you will see them during fights, which is very useful. And you can also use this trick to scout brushes enemy champions might be in, like the enemy support for example. You can also Q Flash, which is good for executing low health targets. Now your Severum's auto attacks give you lifesteal, and you should always be looking to auto attack minions to regain HP you may have lost after trading with the enemy. Now if you are full HP and you auto attack with your Severum, you will start to gain a shield instead. Now the Severum Q, this is called Onslaught, and while gaining movement speed, Aphelios will fire 6 attacks on his own accord to targets within this red circle. Enemy champions are prioritized, and these attacks alternate between your Severum and your offhand weapon. So in the laning phase, you can Onslaught with your Calibrum as your offhand, and then auto attack after its duration to proc Calibrum's mark. Now it's important to note that you cannot switch weapons nor use your ultimate while onslaughting. Now for the most important tip in this guide, use your Severum ammunition first. This is legit all you have to do to have the optimal weapon order for the rest of the game. So it will be Calibrum, Severum at the start, Gravitum, Infernum, Crescendum, and then back to Severum, and you would use your Severum's ammo before your Crescendum in that combo as well. What this will do to your order is this: Crescendum, Calibrum, Gravitum, Infernum, Severum, or white, green, purple, blue, red. But what if I screw up and don't get the order I want? Well, the solution is to always have Crescendum following your Calibrum or Severum. This means you can still manipulate the order to return to the optimal weapon flow. Now, one of the reasons to use your Severum before your Calibrum is because Gravitum is your next gun, and you can use this to destructive effect with your Calibrum in the laning phase. So your Gravitum, your purple gun, applies a decaying slow when you auto attack, but the real deal is your Gravitum's Q, Binding Eclipse, and to any enemy champion that has been affected by your Gravitum, your Q will deal damage to them and root them for 1 second. Now what's really broken is that you can actually activate your Binding Eclipse while your auto attack is traveling to that target. So essentially you can press Q mid-air, and as soon as it lands, it will root. This is why Aphelios with a hard engaged support like Thresh and Nautilus is so deadly because of this interaction. Now with your Calibrum, this is where it gets really oppressive because you can land your Moonshot, auto attack, and as that auto attack is traveling, press W and Q immediately to root that target. So if an enemy champion is outside of your auto attack range, you can still set up and engage by doing this. Now it's important at this stage to use your Calibrum's ammunition before your Gravitum, and this will bring out your Infernum, your blue gun. Now when you auto attack with your Infernum, it will hit any target it travels over, and it will also extend beyond the main target into a cone-like shape. This is a great way to poke enemy champions when they are trying to last hit because you can auto attack the ranged minions and that cone is going to extend. Now your Infernum Q is called Dust Wave, and this fires a cone of Infernum in the target direction and quickly unleashes a second round of of attacks from your offhand weapon. Now, a key point to remember is that your Dustwave's range is bigger than your auto attack range, so if you're laning against a Caitlyn or a Ziggs, this is how you can trade with them. Now, you cannot Dustwave flash, but you could if the enemy champions have jumped onto you, and this would create space and be particularly beneficial with Gravitum as your offhand because you could then insta-root and get away. Now, at this stage, you should have your Gravitum paired with your Infernum, and the essential combo you need is Dustwave, W to switch to your Gravitum, and then Q to activate the root from Binding Eclipse. Now, Crescendum is the next weapon, and you can also tell what weapon is next, by the way, by looking at this icon on your HUD. And we do not want to have Gravitum paired with Crescendum. It's a really suboptimal combo in a lot of situations, so we get rid of Gravitum, so we are left with Infernum and Crescendum. This is your white gun, and when you auto attack, you throw a chakram at the target. Now, this chakram returns back to you like a boomerang, and you can only attack again once you retrieve it. So the closer to your opponent you are, the faster you attack. This is essential to remember, and it's great for team fighting and even taking objectives. But the real power of your Crescendum comes when you start stacking your chakrams. That's right, you can have up to 20 at a time, and the way you do this is by using your Q or ultimate with your other weapons except Gravitum. Now, it's important to remember that the more enemies you hit with your AoE Qs and Moonlight, the more chakrams you will obtain. And you have to auto attack within 5 seconds or they'll disappear, but the cooldown will reset when you auto attack an enemy champion. So during teamfights, it should be very easy to keep hold of them. But you will lose all your extra chakrams against Yasuo's Windwall and Braum's Unbreakable, so be very careful about auto attacking against these two. Now, your Crescendum Q is your Sentry, and this is like a mini Aphelios, but he uses your offhand weapon. So when you have your Calibrum and Crescendum combo, for instance, you can place a Sentry and choke points around Baron and Dragon, and even if the enemy is out of your basic attack range normally, you can still auto attack them. Now for your ultimate, Moonlight Vigil. You cast a wave of light towards the target direction, which has 1300 range, the same as a Morgana Dark Binding, but it will actually travel a little further because right, and upon stopping and dealing damage to the first target hit, it will bounce to enemy champions within 300 units of that initial target and apply the same damage and attacks with your main weapon. This means you can hit enemy champions beyond your Moonlight's range by hitting ones closer to you because of the bounce. Now, your ultimate channels from the center of Aphelios, meaning that even if a champion is behind you, your Moonlight will hit them. So it should be impossible to miss up close, but you cannot Moonlight flash, so don't try this. Now, when you use your Calibrum ultimate, which is one of the most powerful early game Moonlight Vigils, if multiple targets are hit, whichever target you choose to auto attack will consume all the marks and cop all of the damage. But it's also good to use against a single target because you can do this combo. You Q and R at the same time, auto attack and then auto attack again because your Moonlight will reapply your Calibrum's mark, so a lot of DPS. But what if you only have 10 ammo for your Calibrum Q? Will it still work? No. So make sure you have more than 10 ammo to do this. This is also great to use when the enemy champions are far away, but you can actually auto attack them afterwards with Calibrum's mark. Now, when you Severum ultimate, it will heal you for each enemy champion hit, so the more the merrier, and this is very simple. So you might want to use this if you're very low HP at the start of a team fight, so you can instantly heal back up. Now, when you Gravitum ultimate, the decaying slow starts at 99%, and you can root all enemy champions hit, and the root lasts a little longer as well. This is obviously great to set up ganks and fights for your team by rooting key targets, and is also great for self-peel. Now, when you Infernum ultimate, the initial blast deals bonus physical damage and splashes around to deal 90% of that damage again. So if the enemy team is ever grouped, this is ideal and can lead to some insane wombo combos. It's also useful to know it spreads to minions, and with your Crescendum as your offhand weapon, this can give you an insane amount of chakrams. Now, when you Crescendum ultimate, you gain 5 additional chakrams for the first champion hit, and then 1 for each extra enemy champion. So if you hit 5 enemy champions, you can instantly get 10 chakrams. So if you don't have your Infernum ultimate, Crescendum is your next best bet if the enemy team is grouped, and it is also great in 1v1s because quickly stacking your chakrams is key. Now we know what your weapons do. What else is important? Well, weapon combos are critical, and we have looked at the most important and optimal combos, but one trick you have to know and use regardless of the gun combos you have is the swap combo. And if you do this well, you can get 4 Qs off in a short period of time, and it all starts with having 10 or less ammo with the 2 guns you have in that moment. This means that when you Q with one gun, you can then Q with the next, then swap, Q again, and once you have finished swapping, Q with your new weapon. So before the start of team fights or ganks, or just before you and your support hit level 6, having 10 or less ammo is the strongest you can be because of this 4-gun rotation trick. Now let's discuss the laning phase quickly and what you need to be aware of as Aphelios. Now level 1, you don't have your Q. It's just you and your Calibrum and Severum, and by default, you are not the strongest level 180 carry. So if you're against a strong marksman like Draven, you never want to be trading with him unless he is legit running it down. What you should be looking to do is harass your opponents as much as possible with your Calibrum range and push the wave so you can hit level 2 first, and this is where you can start actively trading. Now, your positioning in the lane is key, and it is for any AD carry, but especially Aphelios because you don't have a dash or jump or anything. So during the laning phase, never stand towards the side of the lane the enemy support is holding. This is vital. You can't scale if you're dead. Now, it's also important during the laning phase to consider your own support and the synergy you have. For example, playing next to a Soraka is very different to playing next to a Thresh. With a Soraka, you can push waves on repeat and trade with the enemy champions knowing Soraka will heal you back up. But with a Thresh, it's about timing that engage and using a swap combo to maximize your damage and kill threat. Now, once you hit level 6, it's all about target selection, even with your ultimate, because sometimes the enemy bot lane will be split up, so you have to choose one or the other. But this is again where positioning and spacing is crucial. Try to keep that distance at all times from the enemy support, unless they are the champion you're trying to kill. Even with your Crescendum, of course, you want to get close to increase your DPS, but that doesn't mean you just run forward in a straight line. Run towards that primary target and away from the secondary target. Now, we can't get into the optimal items for Aphelios without you subbing to the channel, so do that. And your core items are as follows: Berserker's Greaves, Immortal Shield Bow, the Collector, and Infinity Edge. In this meta, if you build these every single game, you will find success. Greaves gives you the movement speed and attack speed you need, Shield Bow for the survivability and lifesteal, the Collector because lethality is a strong stat at the moment, and Infinity Edge for that crit spike. But when do I want to finish my Berserker's Greaves? Well, that's a fat question, and you would want to buy Greaves before anything else if you are against a heavy poke bot lane, like Ziggs and Karma for example, or if you don't have your flash, because movement speed at that point becomes even more important to surviving kite. Otherwise, it's Noon Quiver into Shield Bow and so on. Now, for your last two major items, you have a choice. Guardian's Angel is going to be good, Mercurial Scimitar is going to be good, Bloodthirster is going to be good, Lord Dominus Regards is going to be good. It really depends on the enemy team and what you need to actually survive. Like, you don't want to be building a QSS if the enemy team has no threatening crowd control, or is it? Now, as for your runes for Aphelios, Conqueror as your keystone because it gives you the most opportunity to 1v9, especially in team fights and against close range champions, and let's be honest, in most elos, there are no ranged champions. Then Presence of Mind, Bloodline, and either Coup de Grace if the enemy team is very squishy, or Cut Down if they are very tanky. For your secondary tree, take Domination with Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter, Sustainers in Fashion. Then for your minor runes, always take Attack Speed and Adaptive Force, and either Armor or Magic Resist depending on the enemy bot lane. As for your summoner spells, always take Flash, and you can choose to pair this with 3 other spells. Heal is going to be the most consistent and will work in every game, but if you are against a CC bot lane like Ashe and Braum, Cleanse is going to be best. And if you're against a heavy burst bot lane like Draven or Samira, Exhaust wins. Thank you so much for watching this Aphelios guide. I hope this has given you the information and confidence to head out onto Summoner's Rift and dominate. Please consider checking out the GameLeap website for even more in-depth champion courses and guides just like this one. And until tomorrow's video, this has been Eat.